Greetings, flesh creatures. It is I, Megatron. On behalf of TFYLP, I want to congratulate you for listening to the most refined collected podcast on this miserable little planet Earth. Yes. Here you'll find knowledgeable fans discussing every aspect of Transformers and beyond. Now, enjoy the show while I continue my path to complete conquest of all of you miserable biological entities. Predacons, terrorize!
Hi, welcome to TFYLP, episode 576. We are live tonight. It is Thursday, April 25th. I'm Lucas. I'm joined tonight by Nick.
Howdy.
And Anna.
Good evening.
And then Phil will be here at some point here in a few minutes. So he's running late, but we have to start the show on time, right? Here at TFLP, that is incredibly important.
Phil is totally not watching the NFL draft.
Totally not. No, not at all. Yeah, my phone may be blowing up here during the show when the Chiefs or whoever take whatever players. So, but anyway, so welcome to TFLP, your top news and reviews for everything St. Louis pizza related. So if you want all of your information about the best St. Louis style pizza, Anna has you covered, right?
I sure do. I was really lucky. I was flying back from a conference. I got a driver who was a St. Louis kid as well. So we talked all about how St. Louis style pizza is delicious and Minsky's is disgusting. It was a good time.
I just don't understand why you have to disparage Minsky's just because you guys have some type of odd palate that where you don't like.
If I found another St. Louis, then he would agree with me, and he did. He was like, "Ew, it's gross."
Well, okay, sure, right? Like I'm sure that they probably say that Chicago style, New York style pizza aren't good either. That St. Louis is the best, but you know what, Anna? Here soon you'll be able to, find the wonders of the Detroit style pizza, right? So
eat whatever Detroit style is, yeah.
So anyway, so tonight we had a big Hasbro live stream, right? So we're gonna be talking all about all the reveals that they had, right? Like that is the topic of the show.
Nope, the topic is comic book.
Wait, didn't decide to preempt the show with the all the news and stuff?
I know where you live, Lucas.
Look, I mean, reveals are a timely thing. It's only relevant for a week or so.
They are timely. Fine, let's spend the whole show talking about Roboson Megatron.
Right. Let's get Nick's thoughts on Roboson and how he loves them so much, right?
God,
so how much
the fucking fail and everything to go on clearance?
Given that Roboson or Megatron is $900, how much do you think he's actually worth?
$300.
$300.
Tops.
That is a number I have heard thrown around by several people today, including Lucas.
I know, right? I said the exact same thing. I didn't say, I think that the Roboson figures, look really cool and all that. And man, if I had unlimited disposable income, sure, I might be down with it, right? But I think I said kind of the same thing of, I'm not going to spend $900 on a novelty. I'm sorry.
Look, I'm not going to hold back anymore. Robosen is for shitty tech bros who just need a status bump. And I think less of you if you're buying them at this point.
But I don't know. I don't really understand because, okay, so Star Wars had the sphere. I mean, I think I talked about that before. I got sucked into some of the Sphero droids or whatever, right? Like that came out a few years ago that were like 100 and what? Like those were 150 maybe, something like that, $100. And like I feel like that was, somewhat expensive, but it was like low enough to where you're like, like it's kind of cool to check it out. I had an app with it and everything. So I understand this transforms, but I mean, I don't know. I don't understand why you'd be having this whole collect. Like, and I could somewhat understand if you're like, all right, Optimus Prime, like whatever, that's going to be my showpiece and get that, right? But like, I don't know. I don't understand like getting 4 of these things and then the trailer.
And the Grimlock is $1,500 by itself.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like, sit and spin, buddy.
I did not expect that there were going to be this. It would be like 1, maybe 2 over the course of quite a few years.
Yeah. And like they're not even, they don't even do all the stuff they say they can do. Like they hype it up so much. And like what's the missile firing distance on that Megatron?
60 centimeters.
60 centimeters. That's like
Right.
2 feet.
It's roughly as long as this thing, this arm I have. It's a little bit shorter than my arm, actually. So technically, it would be easier for me just to poke someone than it is for me to shoot them with the Megatron missile.
Reach over and slap somebody for buying the damn thing instead of firing a missile at them.
and like, and Ron mentions in the chat that like if they're powered down, they're not really showpieces too. I mean, I guess you can have them in their alt mode, but yeah, like, I mean, that's the thing is I know that you could probably make a corollary to between statues in this, right? And like I had collected, those Imaginarium art statues, and then they also have plenty of other ones and stuff too, right? But like those are visual pieces that you can appreciate.
Statue looks good when it's being static and doing nothing.
Right. Right.
Statue still functions when it's being a statue. What does the Robosen do when it's powered off? Fall over.
Right. And like, I don't know, I guess it's kind of cool that between the Megatron and the Optimus that they can interact, get together somewhat. But I don't know. I mean, I feel like, so you're going to throw together $3,000 between the Optimus, the trailer, and the Megatron or whatever. And then you're like, when you have company over, like, once every couple months or whatever, then you're going to like show it up. But it only works the first time you show it off. Cause I mean, I'm sure that like, it's not like you're going to be.
It's status symbol bullshit for tech pros.
Right,
this is not a thing for a normal human.
Right. Catherine says you can buy 10 Megatrons or a robot dog with a real flamethrower. What is this?
Oh God, you haven't seen this horrifying video?
No. I missed out.
So those police dog robot things they've been building that look like early iterations of the Terminator? Well, now they've made one with a flamethrower on it. Because that's a thing we needed.
Fair enough.
So when AI takes over, that'll be the last sight you see.
I hate it here.
Worst timeline.
It is. It really
is.
It's
a little bit dystopia.
Well, I mean, I feel like I've got some good news, guys, and part of this is kind of why I'm late, and part of it is why I might need to leave early. Like if I get a call tonight, if I get drafted tonight, I got to go. So I'm hoping, fingers crossed, I don't get pushed back to the side. Heads up.
Best of luck, Phil. Best of luck.
Thank you.
Sorry, I'm distracted because of this draft. What's going on?
I was just saying, if I get selected tonight for the draft, I will have to leave.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Well, are you? Yeah. Can you play quarterback? Because I think that we've only had like 6 go so far, so
I'd probably have the build of maybe a tight end. I don't know. I'm probably even too short for that.
Yeah. So anyway, all right. So we talked about Robinson. We talked about St. Louis style pizza. I talked about the NFL draft. I think there might be some comics talk or something in here at some point.
Yeah. I think there is some comic talk we can talk about.
Before we start that, I just want to ask, like, of the other reveals, anything else that actually got revealed that you guys are excited about, or
Straxus? I'm very excited for Straxus.
But that didn't really. I mean,
Straxus.
Do you count that as like an actual reveal? Because it's like
They told me a Straxus is coming. That's all I need.
Well, that's what I felt.
It's an official commentary, so yeah.
I feel like that the most exciting part about the stream today was actually those like reveals, right? You're like, all right, I want like the new Springer, the Steeljaw, like, you know, like sign me up for that, right? I'm trying to think what the other ones were.
Bumblebee. They were talking about Bumblebee.
Yeah.
They were like, he's gonna be like TV movie accurate. He's gonna be awesome.
How is it going to be different from the previously released Walmart one is what I wonder.
I feel like if they can somehow redo Tool this mold, like, do you have the animated one, Nick?
Yeah.
Like, I think this is a really cool mold. Like, if they can somehow, like, do this or whatever, like, with 86B, like, I think it'd be pretty neat.
I would like to see that turned into a Bumble Jumper.
Sure.
I was kind of smelling what they were saying, the way I was like kind of interpreting what they were saying, that they were implying that he was going to be small but a deluxe so that he could be more screen accurate.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's how that animated Bumblebee, you know, you're describing his height.
Right.
That would imply.
Was the Walmart one taller and I'm misremembering?
The Walmart one again.
I'm trying to think that where do I have the Walmart one at?
Isn't that right there?
I think it's the same mold as all the other Bumblebees.
Well, yeah, I was gonna say,
right
I guess
there.
it's the same as the Cliff Jumper mold, right? But like the I think the animated one, I guess they're the same height. This one's just like, I feel like this one's a little bit bulkier than the animated one, or it feels bulkier. So
they have to take out the parts forming in order for it to be a more cartoon accurate Bumblebee. The whole back end coming off.
So we think it'll be like an RC that was a partial off the other RC?
Yeah, probably.
Ooh, it could be, yeah.
Yeah.
If we want to go real ancient, right? Since the RC went and grabbed back Thrilling 30 RC, this one's going to go back and grab Classics Bumblebee. It's going to be a partial of Classics Bumblebee.
Yeah.
He's going to come with a helicopter friend instead of a jet ski friend. That would be so cool. I'm getting my own hopes up. I'm going to stop this line of inquiry.
Springer is going to go back and bring back Cybertron Bulkhead, or Energon Bulkhead.
They did say about that Sprainer, they said that he was going to be a partial from the Siege Sprainer, and that is probably something that makes both me and Christian pretty sad.
Like, I don't understand why. I mean, I feel like the transformation was pretty good on that.
They said they're going to bulk him up.
Yeah,
they said it's going to be partial and bulked up of him. I just wanted him to start over. I kind of, for some reason, that thing just didn't land with me. And I wanted them to try again, but...
It's one of the most kind of complex mainline Transformers, especially for like non-studio series leader class kind of thing. Like some of those verse ones are pretty insane, but that one is for just a you know, especially at the time for the Siege line, that was really complicated for the Siege line.
That's true.
Yeah,
that's true. And he pulled off triple changing better than Ape Face did, so I got to give him that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, much better than the Horicons.
Ape Face gave me nightmares, so
yeah. Well, we need an Octane too, right?
Yeah.
We still do, yep.
Ape Face and Snapdragon have always been kind of crappy triple changers.
Right.
Yeah, I actually like those old unique toys legend size ones because they're just small and simple and silly. And I think they just pull it off better. You don't expect them to be amazing because they're tiny. So they're good enough.
Yeah, but
the KFC ones are nicer, but it's still just kind of funky modes. Like even when you're homaging what you saw on the screen, still kind of just looks funky.
Yep, agreed.
I mean, the swoop, looked pretty good. I'm excited to finish the Dinobots. So
yeah, me too.
Nice. So, but yeah. So
yeah, swoop looks good. It's nice that we're getting a repaint of a rock person. As a different rock person.
It's a decent amount of remolding.
I have a dumb question. Speaking of the rock person, was there anybody from Wave? What wave was this today? 3?
3.
That anybody was actually excited for?
Oh, I mean,
I'm excited for the rock person.
Yeah, I'm kind of excited for the rock person.
Hot Shot.
I mean,
I guess I'm excited for Vector Prime.
I'm excited for Hot Shot. Like, I think he like that's probably the one I'll get. Vector Prime sold out on polls, so I'm assuming that he's the most popular one from the wave.
To me, Vector Prime, Hot Shot, you kind of see this a little bit because Hot Shot isn't altogether that different, so it's not like it's improved. But you got really screen accurate Cybertron toys with that toy line back in the day. So the toys that they're going to make now may not be better. And in my opinion, Vector Prime is not better. Vector Prime is worse because he's sharing molds. He's a remold of G-Axis.
I thought it was a clever reuse, though.
It's a clever reuse. I'll agree. It's a clever reuse, not one I would have thought of. Yeah. But it just doesn't have the same kind of lines that it's bulky and boxier than the Cybertron Vector Prime was. And like, to me, it's not necessarily an upgrade. The bot mode maybe looks a little bit better, but even then, it's you could easily make the argument that the original is a more fun toy.
I felt like they actually said it well themselves when they were talking about the Hot Shot, and one of them was like, well, his wings are manual slide out now. They're not an action feature. And Evan was like, but he has ankle tilt. I feel like that's kind of the line for both of those figures, right?
Yep.
It's just, but they have ankle tilt. That's it. That's their claim to fame.
Yeah, I mean, you're getting rid of the action feature. In some cases, you're shrinking the size, but you are getting a more articulated toy.
You are, yes.
So that is the proverbial upgrade, and in some people's opinions, that won't be an upgrade, at least in terms of how it looks on a shelf.
I got my Cybertron Starscream in hand, and I was surprised at just how tiny the keys are now.
Yeah,
they are itty bitty.
Yeah, don't lose that one there, Nick.
Scary.
I think it's kind of like the Galaxy Prime that came out a couple years ago. It's like Galaxy Prime and also Vector Prime were both such good toys that their remakes kind of really aren't better, right? They're just a little bit different. They're just a little bit more modern, but it's hard to have that same impact of how much better Vector Prime was than the toys we were getting at the time, right? Like, he just stood out. That was a figure I wasn't even collecting at the time because I was, in college. I didn't have any money, but I still went out of my way to get that figure and have it on my shelf because it was that much cooler than the other toys that were coming out. We were coming off of Armada and Energon, and I was like, pass. And then he came out. I was like, whoa, it's pretty. It's neat. It's big. He's imposing. He's got a cool sword that I need to send Phil. He's just really cool. And yeah, this one just doesn't have that, right? He's just another Voyager Transformer that's pretty good.
And I think the Galaxy Force Prime from a few years ago and Vector Prime, same commentary I made just a few minutes ago, which is these are remolds of existing figures. And if you got a Galaxy Force leader class toy like you did with Armada, maybe it would look better, where it's totally dedicated to that figure and not a repaint remold. Maybe then you would get something better. Again, you'd probably lose the action features, but but that's not what we got. And the same thing with Vector Prime is happening, where it's a remold. It loses some of its regalness, which is, I think Vector Prime really had, like, is one of the kind of few regal looking Transformers.
Yeah, I mean, when I see it at like toy shows for resale, and I see that Vector Prime sitting on somebody's table, it's always like, wow, that's a really pretty action figure. And that thing is old now, but it's
The
still
Alpha
really
Trion reuse
impressive.
of it is the one that always really gets me. Just the colors, the way they pop.
It's very good colors. I feel like every use of that mold had good colors, though.
Even the, like, poop brown universe one is really nice. They can't make that toy look bad.
All the gear, like, details on it's just so cool looking. No other toys really got that kind of look to it. In Transformers, like the spaceship mode, you fold up the legs underneath it, and that looks kind of chunky. And then the cape / sail fins or whatever get all weird bendy with the plastic they use. But aside from those things, it's pretty darn awesome looking.
Mm-hmm.
It really was. And there's nothing wrong with the new one. It just can't quite capture how cool the original was.
Maybe when we see it in hand, we'll feel differently. But yeah, I was not one of the people that sold it out on Pulse today. I'll say that much.
Me neither. No, but I was only after my Infernac universe white and gold car guy. Oh, yeah, because he had a weird story. I remember. They were like, he's made of Nucleon. It's like, oh, that's upsetting. Okay.
Yeah.
Touch him too much, he'll become an action master.
So the other bit of news I saw too, I don't know if you guys, I know this is not necessarily Transformers related, but did you guys see that? I guess apparently Hasbro is licensing Power Rangers toys to Playmates.
Yep.
Like,
they have been unable
crazy
to figure out a successful strategy to sell Power Rangers toys to children.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I have this idea.
Sells at selling Turtles toys to children. And I think the reason they go to Playmates is because they want Playmates to use that Turtles formula to sell modern Power Rangers figures. That makes sense. What's going on here.
I have an idea. What if they make some more, like, media, right? Like, maybe if they make a new Power Rangers show, and then maybe
I'm sure that's coming.
But they did make one. It's on Netflix.
Oh, yeah. Did they? Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. They have had new shows and they were unable to sell toys.
Yeah. Dino Fury and then Cosmic Fury, which is the continuation of that. And, like, neither one did really well. I mean, Cosmic Fury, and aside from one Zord, I have not seen very much from that line at all.
They have only ever been able to sell Mighty Morphin product.
Yeah.
That's all anybody wants. And the whole reason you buy an IP like Power Rangers is because you want it to be an evergreen brand that constantly sells to children and is a juggernaut like it was. And they couldn't quite get there. And that's why they're teaming up with Playmates. That's the whole thing.
But I don't really understand because again, like, my kids are a little bit older now. But, like, I don't know. I feel like Power Rangers was, like, all over the place a few years ago. Like, it was, the shows seemed like they were pretty big and, like, took up a fair amount of the toy aisle as well. So it just seems weird that they couldn't, like, continue that. I don't know.
Well, they were selling it to us. I mean, the Power Rangers fans who grew up. Like, that's what Lightning Collection is all about, right? It's about selling to us.
Lightning Collection is Marvel Legends, is Transformers Generations. It's aimed at an older audience.
That, but I mean, like, okay, like the Transformers property, right? Like, I mean, they have toys all the way up and down the line for Transformers. So you would have assumed that they were planning on doing that with Power Rangers as well. And, it's funny too, because, like, I always feel like the Power Rangers brand is, like, essentially the Transformers for the people that are, like, 10 years younger than us. you know, essentially, like, I know a lot of those, like, younger, like, you know, people like in their 20s and 30s, you know, it's almost kind of like that Pokemon generation. But yeah, I don't know. It's crazy that they couldn't make it work. But yeah, like this, it's like when we're wondering about Hasbro and the state of Hasbro, that like pretty much all their acquisitions that they've done, like over the last few years, they've divested them now in some one way or another. So, I mean, this is just a licensing deal at this point, but you know, I don't know, just seems crazy to me. So anyway, all right. So now that we have, oh, sorry, go on, Phil. What were you gonna say?
No, I was just gonna say I agree with Nick with the rhyme and reason for why they're doing this and why it makes a lot of sense because, you know, to me the most, you know, similar comp to Power Rangers is Ninja Turtles. You know, kind of similar time frame. You know, Power Rangers is a little bit later than Ninja Turtles, but it's just sort of like, how do you take those same 5 different colored things and resell that over and repackage it over and over and over again? And Hasbro isn't necessarily good at that because their IP is much more expansive with larger character base. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, Ninja Turtles and Power Rangers are both kind of similar in the sense that it's just, you know, rinse and repeat of the same formula over and over and over again with the same probably 8 characters that they put out in terms of the 4 Turtles, Splinter, April, Shredder, and Krang, and then, you know, Bebop, Rocksteady thrown in there as well. So it's you know, Power Rangers again is much more similar in that vein.
I see your point.
All right, so now 30 minutes in, let's go ahead and get to the actual posted topic, which are the comics.
So well, if you can stall for another 10 seconds, I'll be done with the first arc.
Well, we can stall easily by saying for the first part, I would like to try to stay a little bit spoiler free, just in case someone wants to listen to just a little of us, and then go read it on their own. Because the first collection, the first graphic novel version, is that out now or is that out soon?
No, not till June.
Okay. So it's like, it's the right time to buy it for cheap on the graphic novel version if you've been waiting for that. I know some people wait for collections. I've been reading it every month as it came out, and I know Phil has, and Nick clearly has been keeping up with it. And Lucas, I think, read them all right before the show.
Well, not right before the show. I read like half of them. You know, I don't know. I mean, I guess like getting into it, like overall, like what's your guys's, you know, thoughts on the comic? Is it something that you want to keep reading and that you plan on, like buying on a monthly basis, or are you like just like, eh?
I will of course continue to buy every issue and every cover of this comic book for as long as they publish it, and every appearance by a robot in any other comic they publish.
Did you get the old IDW ones too?
Yep.
Yeah.
I have every Transformers comic they've ever published, except for some of the British ones.
And you seem so happy about it too. Just like thrilled. Like,
if there were one cover per issue, I would be thrilled. But when I'm 6 or 7 issues in and there are still 15 fucking covers.
You don't.
Are there still 2-digit covers?
15 covers, Nick.
Who are you talking to?
Nick, are you over or under 100 comics for the first 6 issues?
Over.
Well, how many covers were on issue 1?
I don't remember.
Just by itself?
Between 48 and 62. I can't remember what the actual number was.
So then I'm probably over.
Okay. So for a 6-issue arc, you have over 100 comic books.
Probably.
I can see why that would lead to some dissatisfaction.
Yeah. Yeah, they really have been milking it hard. Like they know we're collectors, right? They know that Transformers fans are collectors at heart.
I mean, I hate to say this because, I like our friends at Image in general, but that many variant covers feels abusive for the collector.
It does, yeah. And it's clearly targeted since we are collectors.
Yeah.
We're not just science fiction readers. We are collectors.
I don't necessarily blame anybody at Image for this being this way. It's the sad state of the market right now where that is how you sell a book. Sadly, you make another cover for it and you sell some poor schmo 1,000 copies or whatever, 500 copies of the variant cover, and it bumps your numbers. And then it's their problem to move the inventory.
Games, right?
It's
the same thing where you have the whales that are the ones that the 2% in mobile games, that spend all the money on the game, and then you have all the casuals
who get to actually enjoy the game. So, you have like me who's getting to just read the comics and I'm not burdened by buying all the
worst part
covers.
Is here we are talking about this Transformers comic. The first arc is done, and the first thing we're talking about is the variants, not the story, not the art, not the writing.
Well, I mean, you up, and we're just continuing on that.
But it's hard. It's hard to not let that be the first thing you talk about when you talk about this kind of stuff. The focus here should be on the thing, not the circus.
I would not have focused on that myself in terms of my sentiment with the book.
How many variant covers have you bought, Phil?
Of the first issue, maybe half a dozen.
How many variant covers have you bought, Anna?
0.
I was gonna say this is
digital.
The number for me too. Yeah, I was gonna say I'm
all digital.
I got both Scotty Young covers because I love me some Scotty Young. Well, I shouldn't say both. I got 2 of his covers. I think he did 3. It's all the same image, and like one is without the text, and one is just white and background, and one is the Optimus Prime with the flames behind it. I got the Maria Wolf Soundwave one, which hopefully I get to see her tomorrow. C2E2, get that signed because that's a cool book. And I really like her art, and I want to talk to her because her stuff is cool. And maybe get a sketch depending upon her prices. I got the Ryan Otley cover because again, Ryan Otley, enjoy his work. And that was one of the regular release covers. You didn't have to pay an arm and a leg for that one. There was another Transformer guy who has an online store that he got a variant cover that I bought one from him, just kind of support him. There was another local comic book store that got a variant that I thought was pretty neat, so I picked that up as well. And I think that's kind of where I'm at. I told my local comic shop to just give me as many as I could of what they're getting. So I think I got 4 from them. And that was more so kind of just, hey, let me get the book, let me support my local comic shop, that kind of deal. I knew it wasn't going to be, I knew they weren't going to just give me a stack of 20 comics.
So I don't think it's necessarily bad if you're that some of your favorite artists are doing variant covers and you can pick it up, but I don't know. To me, I don't really understand the need to, pick up every single one. But then at the same time, I know that you guys went through the whole Power of the Primes cards and all kinds of other things.
Speaking of abusive.
Too, so.
I will say I didn't buy any of the other covers. I only bought 1 copy of each of the subsequent issues.
Yeah. To answer the question in the chat, I buy every variant cover that comes out. All of them. Every printing, every variant, all of them.
And Phil, are you going to be joining book club when they get to the Skybound stuff?
As I'm typing in reply right now, I have no time for that. Like I'm like scrambling. That's why I'm late tonight. I'm just scrambling just with all my kids' activities and all that sort of thing. So like I really did want to get to the comic book shop and get the most recent issue of Duke, which came out this week, because that's the first limited series of the Energon universe that is now complete. So I wanted to try and read that before we talk tonight, to see if I had any thoughts and insight from that. But yeah, it's I don't know. Overall, I'm enjoying it as a whole. Each issue, some issues I've enjoyed more than others. And the first arc set an interesting tone. Not necessarily sure I'm 100% happy with how the first arc ended.
Okay.
Subsequently,
I'm surprised.
not 100%. Yeah, and not 100% certain I'm enjoying how the second arc has started. So again, there's a lot of table setting going on, which happens with a book, and sometimes a book takes a little while to find its legs. And I don't know, the book came out it shot out like a cannon at the start. In the first several issues, I really enjoyed, and it's just, I'm curious of how the pacing goes as the story continues. I'm not sure if I've said it on camera before. I know I've said it to some of you. Either in the chat or when we've been after the show. Daniel Warren Johnson mainly writes miniseries and limited series. So for him to be doing an ongoing book, I'm a little apprehensive as to how well that's going to work for him over the long term. Now, Kirkman's part of this as well, and Kirkman has written stories that last for hundreds of plus issues. So he's kind of the opposite of Daniel Warren Johnson in regards to that. So I trust in that regard, but we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, my thought is, with it is, I feel like that this is the most comic-like Transformers that we've had in a very long time, if that makes sense. Like, I feel like it's more of, it's more similar to other comics, if that makes. You don't think so at all, Nick? Okay, well, I guess I'm talking out my rear end, I guess.
No, I think I agree with you. As someone who doesn't read a lot of comic books, I would say that this feels more like the thing that comic book fans read than the thing that specifically Transformers fans are looking for.
Okay, so I guess I should pause and say that I have not read regular comics in like 20 years. So it feels like comics 20 years ago, I guess. I should say kind of more. Like, I will say, like, I thought that I enjoyed a lot of the human characters and like that dynamic there. I'm not so sure about the robots, really. I don't know. Like, and my kind of thing is that, once again, with like a lot of the IDW run, like I would be excited, like I would finish one book and I'd be excited to pick up the next one. And I somewhat was interested in this and like, okay, what's the next thing going to be and all of that? What's the next issue, going to have? But I don't know, like, again, like I think I read the first couple issues and then I put it down for however many months that we've been having these, and then kind of picked it back up when Anna was like, I want to do the show. So I was like, all right, well, crap, I guess I need to go read the last 5 issues of the thing. And I don't think I disliked it, but I don't think it was something where I'm like, I have to pick, like, man, I'm gonna have to run next Wednesday to my comic shop and pick up the next issue. So
let's talk about, sorry, Anna.
I was just gonna say, a couple weeks ago, TF Source published an article that was the top 10 character portrayals, the top 10 robot portrayals in the new comic run. And I only read like the first 2 entries on it because the whole idea sounded really dumb to me. But then I read a little bit of it. It was like, look at how accurate Skywarp is to his character, was like one of their first entries. And it was like, Skywarp had no portrayal in this, hardly. He was just a nobody. And I think that kind of communicates how I feel about it. And what Lucas just said, I don't know about the robots yet. And I don't know about the robots yet because they really haven't had much of a portrayal of their personalities or their characters. The Decepticons have mostly been science fiction horror movie villains, not monsters. They don't look like monsters. They look like their G1 selves. They act like monsters. They're very bad and negative, but they're not really individual personalities that I'm picking out and be like, ooh, this is so much him. And then the Autobots are just like the hero guys who are trying to do a good and stop a bad from doing bads.
Starscream has a little personality. Soundwave has a little personality. Beyond that, the Decepticons are all interchangeable.
Mm-hmm.
Although they did give like Reflector some
personality. He
and
is the personality of Transformers.
In terms of the Autobots, Optimus is Optimus, very much.
He's Optimus-ing
Cliff Jumper is Bumblebee Light for some reason.
Yes.
And Wheeljack and Ratchet are the science guys. I guess.
No, that's it. Yeah. There's not a whole lot of cool character portrayal to the robots yet.
But it's only issue 6 or 7, I guess. Right. You guys who are all caught up.
No, I don't think the IDW run had won anyone over in early. 6 issues either. Right? Like that was Infiltration, and that was
what was like 24 issues in before I was really interested.
Right. I do remember going back and reading Infiltration and being like, okay, yeah, this would not have hooked me if I had read this first.
Yeah.
But
let's talk about the
Infiltration, because it was so like Ratchet focused at the start, and you didn't have a ton going on with other bots, and so I think there's I would say there's there's a hindsight 2020 sort of thing. I don't know if I'm using this correctly, but people I think are fairly judging the start of this book, because maybe they're judging this compared to the start of the second round of the IDW universe, where you got the Lost Light, or More Than Meets the Eye,
even All Hail Megatron.
Yeah, and those were sort of new arcs, new jumping on points for an established universe. This is establishing the universe for the very first time. We get one issue of Void Rivals that gives us some context as to what's happening here in terms of having the Jetfire in there. And then, we jump right into issue 1, and it's like, okay, there's, what's happening here. And, you don't get much character work from the Transformers in issue 1, because they're asleep half the issue.
Yeah.
And then they're fighting for their lives in a big action thing. I mean, this is much more of an action movie kind of book than what we've gotten in the past.
Brings me back to the thing I was trying to say earlier, and this goes to what Lucas had said. The wider reception at large, like what the general public thinks of this book. And apparently, in some circles, this sells really well. Apparently, this is a bestseller for some shops. And it is, for some reason, not in our shop the way it sells out everywhere else. They've been through, 8 printings on that first issue or something like that? But,
6.
I have had hundreds of copies of dead stock that I have had to wholesale to other retailers. But every time I say, hey, who wants these? They're gone. So they're selling somewhere. Just not for me in my shop. And I don't know why that is. It's not like we don't have the built-in audience. It's not like, but I think that this is a book that doesn't play as well to the hardcore Transformer fans, but plays very, very well to the comic book reading general public. If you're a comic book fan I remember Transformers from the 80s, this is a fun action movie book for you.
And I feel like
if you're a hardcore nerd
says that,
who knows the difference between who Thundercracker and Skywarp are personality-wise, this might be a little disappointing so far. Well, I think that's the thing.
Let me put you in an alternate universe for a second.
Yeah.
What if 2007 and this was the live action story?
Oh my God.
That we were given.
Yeah. I mean, but we could have looked at that. It would have been one movie, and we would have said, "This is a great starting point. This is a great place to build from. Let's see what they give us in the next movie." Right?
Mm-hmm.
As opposed to, well, that sucked. Maybe the next one will be better, and then it was Revenge of the Fallen.
But
well, I feel like
this
is a post movie rehashing to the general audience of like what Transformers is or could be, and
All Hail Megatron was
it's
very clearly written to be a movie as well. You know what I mean? The movie approach.
Well, wasn't that supposed to be a whole new universe, right? At the time.
No, it was a little retconny, but it was not a whole new universe. They were
a little bit. Well,
so oh, sorry.
I got nothing else to say.
So I've got a question though, because you're talking about the hardcore Transformers fans, right? Like, is this another word for like G1ers? Because like, if you're sitting there going like, oh, the Transformers movie made in 2007 is not for hardcore Transformers fans, right? Like those kids have grown up now at this point, right? Like this.
Look, I'm not gonna account for these people with their terrible taste, Sergio.
Right. But in this, where you're like, well, the comic book, people that like comic books like this, but Transformers fans don't like it or whatever, like, and then also, like, we haven't even, I guess, talked about the movie trailer about Transformers 1 and all that too, right? Where it's a lot of
people who watch Transformers movies don't read. It doesn't matter that the books have pictures. That's still too many words. So
no, I think you meant to say that people who make Transformers movies don't know how to read.
That's right.
But I was gonna say though,
both are awful.
This new Transformers 1 movie coming out as well, that I feel like I've seen a lot of negative reactions. I guess we didn't even bring that up in the news about the trailer, because of course you guys need to make sure to check out Phil's live reaction of the trailer, and
Paul's
then subsequently
of the reaction.
I give it a 9 out of 10, Phil.
Thank you.
I do want to say I think Paul may have gotten more views on his reaction.
I haven't gone and checked the numbers lately. Gosh,
I need to go look.
I don't think so. I mean, I don't know how that's possible. It should go in succession.
Right.
You should watch Phil's and then the other one. It shouldn't go the other way.
I must admit, I've only watched Paul's reaction to the reaction.
Wow! I don't know how to take that.
I didn't see that. I didn't see that you did that. I gotta go look for that now.
No, you had to watch.
It was better in real time, Nick.
No.
It was perfect because I literally got done watching the trailer, right? Like, I get home, I watch the trailer, I pop on YouTube, and I have a reaction video of like Paul, and then I have a reaction video of Phil, and then of Paul or whatever. So, and it's both like against like white backgrounds, whatever. So
I'm doing it at work. Cut me some slack.
Phil texted me a few days before. He's like, "Hey, when that trailer comes out, should I do a live reaction video?" And I was like, "Why would you?" Actually, yeah. Why don't you do that? That sounds great. Do that. Not that you need my permission. I don't know. But then, about to watch his, I was like, "I'm gonna mess with him," and so I'm not gonna watch this until I get back, and I'm gonna react to his reaction. I was hoping it would just keep going, but no one else jumped in. So.
I was actually debating about filming my reaction to both of the videos, but I didn't. So anyway, but yeah, what I was gonna say though is there's been a lot of negative reaction, I feel like, in some of the Facebook groups to the new movie, that people have necessarily either not loved some of the look of the figures, that they think it's apparently the movie's too funny, or at least from the clips or something. And they just haven't necessarily liked the tone or whatever of the movie. And like I was, talking to my kid because he like watches YouTube 24/7, and I said, "Hey, like, did you happen to see the Transformers trailer?" And he's like, "Yeah." And I was like, "Well, what'd you think?" And he's like, "Oh, it looked awesome. Bumblebee was really funny. Like, I really liked that part with him." And he was kind of talking about that whole thing. So, but again, that's a 10-year-old, but like, that's the market. I'm assuming that Hasbro's trying to, like, they're probably not trying to go after us. Like, they're probably trying to go after those 10-year-olds, right?
And that's
only thing I'll
but
say,
like, look, as a guy who watches lots and lots and lots of animation, not just Transformers, but like, all of this sort of stuff is my bread and butter. I gotta say, it just feels generic, and that's its biggest sin, is that all of those characters could be swapped out for characters in some other formulaic movie. And maybe the actual film will be different, but that trailer could be any movie. And that's the part that made me twitchy about it.
Agree.
I've seen that complaint quite a few times, and I totally get it. Like, I'm just, after watching that, I kind of feel like, generic or not, this might actually be a legit good movie. Like, not a great movie, but just a legit good movie. Like, I would say that the Bumblebee was a legit good movie.
I'm willing to give it a couple more trailers. I'm willing to see more of what's going on with it. I will give this movie a fair shot.
I'll actually go watch it.
And I might.
I've never wanted to not have his voice before, but it was definitely a strong feeling watching the trailer.
You don't enjoy Keegan-Michael Key?
I like him just fine, but like
the
work
stunt casting on this film is strange. Like, none of these guys feel like the character voice.
Okay.
It's like, I'm not saying you have to go out and get Peter Cullen, but is Chris Hemsworth your Optimus Prime voice?
Watch Starscream be Frank. Like, oh, you got the billable characters right. Great.
So, I mean,
wait, why would Starscream be Frank?
Our Frank.
Oh, I thought you meant
Frank
Welker.
Todaro.
You're not Frank Welker.
I thought you meant Frank Welker.
I don't know, like, this to me almost kind of felt like the Mario movie. And like, did you guys see that?
Right, it does a lot.
Yeah. And that movie was a ton of fun. Like, I really enjoyed that. And
that movie was a solid B-.
That movie also
enjoyed
a crap load of money.
Right.
It did. It sure did.
Now, the thing that worries me is that this movie is made by Paramount Animation or whatever it is, Studios, right? Which, like, their stable of movies that they've made are not they're not winning any Academy Awards, right? So that's the thing that, like, coming back to like your generic discussion, like, that's the thing that kind of worries me a little bit about.
I'm worried that this is going to wind up being movie by committee.
Yeah.
But, I mean, aren't all movies these days, or 90% of movies?
You get brilliant works of animation like Turning Red, or like fucking
Mitchell's versus Machines.
Demona.
Yeah.
Sure. It can be done. You can do wonderful, wonderful things in animation, that means something. And I'm not saying that a Transformers film is necessarily ever going to be that.
So I want to back up and tie this to the comic for a second here. And Anna, you said this doesn't feel like a Transformers comic, or and so if we go back to the idea of the relaunch of the IDW books, that gave us More Than Meets the Eye and Robots in Disguise and the Lost Light crew, I think what you had at that point was you had this group of the Transformers fandom that kind of our generation, that was the G1 group, and probably some of the Beast Wars fandom as well, that just said, hey, listen, the movies weren't giving me the kind of stories that I want. And IDW kind of said, hey, we can give these, there's a niche in the fan base that will appreciate a different kind of storytelling than what they're getting from the cartoons at the time or from the movies. And they gave us that. They gave us that niche type of storytelling, and we loved it. And the Transformers fan base expanded significantly in a really good way, in a much better way than other fandoms have. Even fandoms that have tried to expand, it hasn't accepted the expansion like the Transformers fandom did. I'm looking at you, Masters of the Universe, because She-Ra was a great cartoon.
It was amazing, and
yeah.
God, the fucking old men in that fandom are fucking monsters.
Right. And we didn't have that as much in the Transformers fandom with the IDW books. But here we are at a new point in time where you have a comic book that is not trying to be for maybe a niche Transformers audience, but it's trying to say, this is a global brand. We need to go for a more global market. And how do we do that? Well, let's get Robert Kirkman, who's written globally acclaimed and globally monster sales books. And he's going to bring Daniel Warren Johnson on, who's just globally acclaimed in terms of his art. And this book to me feels a little bit like an Image of old, where it's art first, story somewhat second. And then there's some fun to that. If you go and watch Mad Max Fury Road, it's all right, there's a kind of weak story, but dear God, does that movie look amazing and awesome. But then you also have Transformers Earthspark. You have Transformers 1. You have, Transformers Rise of the Beast. So there's different flavors of Transformers for a lot of the different fan base. And I think if we look at this Transformers comic through the lens that it needs to fit into what the previous comic, the fan base, the previous comic that liked it, I think you're going to be let down and disappointed. And I think you're going to have that same reaction if you look at Transformers 1 through the lens of why doesn't this appeal to me versus let's appeal to a broader global audience kind of thing.
So going back to what you said in reference to what I said when you started your tirade about 10 minutes ago, is that you said that I said this doesn't feel like, a Transformers comic. And by that I really meant
misquoted you or misparaphrased.
No, you didn't misquote me. I think I said that, but what I meant by that is we have come to expect Transformers comics to be this character-driven story about the robots being people. Right, that is what they have been since the G2 comic, right?
No,
the
even
G2
the
comic
Marvel run, even the Marvel run.
The Marvel
run
turned into that.
Yeah, not the beginning, but
didn't
definitely
start that way. But it definitely turned into
there.
that. The UK stuff turned into that, and G2, as gritty as it was that, and the Dreamwave was that. And it's just, that's what Transformers comics have been. It's been character-driven stories about the robots being people. And this is not a character-driven story. This is an action-driven story about the robots being robots. Alien invading robots that are harming humanity, right? Kind of back to its most basic premise.
Yeah.
And that's just, it's very different than what we've been getting. And I think what you said in the end is pretty much what I meant as well, is that people who are excited by IDW's character-driven, lengthy dialogue, blah, 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 everyone talking all the time, aren't going to be as into this comic. And I think that makes a very good point. And I'm kind of in the middle of that because as I read through IDW, as I read through the first run, I'm trying to get through the second run now. It's just so much dialogue, right? It's almost too much of a good thing in a way, because I like the dialogue and the character-driven story, but I think I want just a little bit less of the character-driven story and a little more of a story.
Comics are a visual medium. Show, don't tell.
Right. And there's very little of that in the IDW runs. And I think I just wanted that to calm down a little bit, but I didn't quite want to go this far. But at the same time, I'm enjoying this because of that. Because I'm also reading through the IDW runs with book club. I'm enjoying the shift over to this quick action story. However, 20 pages every month is pretty painful, right? Like, that's not very much of the story. You're just given a little drip. It's like drip, drip, and then you're done and you're waiting.
So an interesting point with that is something Zaldron said in the chat early on, where he said Void Rivals is the best book that's in the Energon universe right now. I think that's the one I'm enjoying the most at the moment as well. And I really like the shift that book took after its first 6 issues, where its first 6 issues, they kind of wedged in the Transformers universe tie-in in each of the first 6 issues, I think. And then with issue 7, they took a little bit of hiatus. They came back with issue 7. in issue 7 and 8, you haven't had that. You've had the focus of the story, and I don't think you had any pages on any of the Transformers characters. And you are getting to know these characters. You're getting a more expansive universe. So you're getting a little bit more of that character-centric thing. And that book is a book that, to me, almost reminds me more of Saga, where it's centered on two characters and this kind of weird outer space universe Romeo and Juliet thing that they've got going on. But there's some good action in there as well.
And one of them leak lists that came out the other day said that those two characters are getting action figures in an SCCC set. Which actually makes me, I'm a little surprised it took that long. I'm a little surprised they're going to be stuck in an SCCC set instead of just being, toys that come out of a toy store.
Well, the general public doesn't know these characters.
It's true.
Yeah, unless they, make it a comic pack-in set to introduce the general public to these characters and the comic books in turn, I don't see them getting a mass market release. But it's entirely possible that they'll hit San Diego first as part of a box set, and then some repaint will be in a 2-pack with the comic book on a shelf in a store. That's what I would do.
I'm just kind of sad it's going to be Commander Jetfire and not Masterpiece Jetfire, because that's the spitting image of the toy in the comic.
How expensive do you want the San Diego set to be, Paul?
$1 million. Make it easy.
It's a Comic-Con set. Who cares how expensive it is? I'd say go with the Masterpiece too, just because I don't want another the Commander and I don't have the Masterpiece. That's why I want it.
The reissue of Jetfire third or fourth time is making a little more sense now.
Yeah. They're reprinting it for that set. I hope he's different. I hope that Jetfire is different. The comic tie-in Jetfire. I mean, even that, I don't really like the comic book shading that they're doing on the Grimlock and the Soundwave, but it would be better than just getting the same Jetfire again. Because if I read that Dane Void Rivals comic, I'm going to end up wanting toys of those two. It's going to happen. That's just the type of collector, wacky person I am.
Yeah, I hope Hasbro's San Diego Comic-Con toy packaging have been fantastic for the last, 5-6 years. And so if they do a packaging reminiscent of the reprint cover, if there's a robot at the end of this book, that would just be awesome. If you have Jetfire standing there with the word bubble coming out of the toy's mouth, that would be awesome.
That would be really cool. I would like that. I mean, talking about comic tie-ins, right? Reading a short comic made me buy this POS, and I still haven't even transformed his shoulders because I like him so little. So good. Comics aren't safe for me anymore. They make me buy things I don't love.
Is that the Masterpiece?
Yes, that stupid Dark Amber Leo Prime.
That is a nail biter, that transforming that one.
It's not a very good toy, and the mainline one actually is a good toy. So
yeah, and they did a dark version of that one too. So good enough for me.
Yeah,
don't talk to Christian about
the Dark Amber look. It's a little different. Yeah, it's a little different in the color scheme. But you know what? I could have been happy with it, and now I'm unhappy with that.
I'm gonna wind up leaving mine sealed. I don't think I'm gonna open mine.
You're this little lady with her wiggle diggle leg.
Pretty blue.
Wiggle, 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 wiggle.
It's a knockoff.
A knockoff, technically an oversized, and the legs go wiggle, wiggle. So, comics are dangerous for now, and I'm kind of happy. Actually, that's something we can talk about that is on topic, is that the art in this run, on the art of IDW's second go, has nothing to do with any toys. Right, this art is a stylized version of the G1 characters. Yeah. Stylized in Daniel Warren Johnson's art style.
And I love his art style. It's very dynamic. I love his storytelling. I love his aesthetic. I'm totally on board with the art. So
I love seeing Transformers doing wrestling moves.
I kind of do.
When Optimus suplex Starscream in that first issue, I was like, ow! And super kicks. I forget who he super kicks, but it's you got a suplex and a super kick, and it's just, it's so good.
I think it's pretty funny too. Like, I'm not the target audience for that stuff, but I'm still enjoying it and kind of like, this makes a really funny panel to me. It's like the suplexes and the flips and the slams, and yeah, it's fun.
I mean,
it's enjoyable.
That is one thing, just in general about this comic is that, we had, what was it? Was it 13 years of IDW or 15 years? I can't remember what it was.
More than a decade.
It was a pretty darn long run, right? And so, like, we got a pretty good run of like that style, that storytelling, all that type of thing. So I mean, I do think that it probably was time for a different take on Transformers. And so I think that if they're trying to actually appeal to the masses with this, going back to kind of more of a G1ified, like story or whatever, like reboot, I think. Okay, IDW was 13. Sorry. Oh, okay. So Aldrin says IDW 1 was 13 years and IDW 2 was 5. The reboot of IDW 2 was 5 years.
5 long years.
That was 5 years. My God. Okay. Yeah. So that's like, it's a fair amount of time. Like, I don't feel like a lot of comics get that long.
And that is true. Like, we were lucky to get a consistent comic run for that long, and I think it really established a lot of Transformers fiction that now exists. Right? It's there. You can go read it. Mm-hmm. I was going through stuff, packing my house and realizing I own a lot of the Transformers UK run when it was being released in the paperbacks. I've never read it, but I own a lot of it. So I need to go and read that because that's fiction that's just laying there about Transformers that I could read. It's in my house, might as well read it. And I think this has that IDW run contributed a lot of new fiction. This, like Phil said, I think I'm not so sure this is going to leave a legacy of fiction unless it really changes the tone. Because, that first 6 issues was an action movie story that had a beginning, action, end, finished, right? And issue 7 doesn't quite feel like a sequel yet. It kind of feels like a follow-up epilogue. I don't know what happens in the sequel yet.
Yeah, issue 7 feels like a bonus, like, episode of a TV show that you get in between seasons.
Yeah. Or an after credit scene almost. Like a really long after credit scene.
Yeah.
Ooh, the director's cut after credits.
Yeah, I mean, you have some really important stuff that happens in issue 7. And some things that do move the plot forward from one aspect, but it's sort of weird. Like, maybe it was just the way that issue was paced, where if the Decepticon side of the story finished up that book, I would have felt more had happened in that issue. But because the Decepticon part of the issue happened first, and then the Autobot stuff happened, like, not much happens on the Autobot side of things. The issue left me a little lackluster. So maybe just a pacing scenario in that kind of book. Because there's big stuff that happens on the Decepticon side.
Yeah, that's interesting to think. That would be cool if it was ended with the Decepticon side, but ruin the way the Autobot side ends.
I don't even remember how the Autobot side ends, to be honest.
Yeah, are we talking about shit yet, or are we?
Let's not spoil issue 7.
Okay.
Because I haven't read it yet.
Because Nick hasn't read it. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Sorry. But
yeah, we'll spoil.
Phil, I agree with you. I think you're right. That pacing almost seems swip swap, and I'm realizing why. So,
yeah, I'll go back and reread it. I'm like, my comic book reading these days is like either in one of two formats. Either I'm like struggling to stay awake because it's at the end of the day, and I've got the kids to bed, got all the regular things done, and all right, let me chill out and read some comics. And I'll probably fall asleep halfway through reading it, or I'm trying to read it while my kids are screaming at me to change the YouTube video that they're watching.
What a life.
Yeah, it's fun.
Sounds
Nick,
right.
have kids. Anna, have kids. It's great. Lucas, small,
Yeah.
I can tell you.
Good. Good.
Yeah.
So,
Don't eat 'em.
that's right. So I will say that, this story definitely has a lot of action. It has a lot of potential death. It's definitely kind of given me a little bit of a throwback to the G1 comics. Remember how early in the G1 comics it was kind of established that death didn't really have a lot of meaning for the Transformers because they could be kind of put back together, rebuilt. So they didn't really have this like idea of death. And I feel like the very first issue really kind of pushes us both directions on that. Because you do have a major character death. You do see mourning, right? Optimus mourns one of his friends. But then right after that, you start seeing people getting rebuilt from clearly dead. So it really has a like kind of wishy-washy definition of what life and death are for Transformers. Can we just rebuild them? Is there like a certain amount of killed? The ones that get utterly vaporized into little pieces by Optimus Prime guns. Are those guys dead forever? Or
There really has to be a distinction of what causes like permanent death or not. And if they don't answer that, then like shame on them. Like they just.
I agree with that.
I am waiting. We are so soon into this universe that like I want to give them the benefit of the doubt that they have some of these key elements in mind. Then some of the things that they have like tried to wow us with in this book have like, oh, you don't get this. You actually you watched the cartoons a few times when you were a kid, but that's all you got, and that's dangerous.
But again, I
feel
think
you
they're
on that,
intentionally
Paul, a lot.
doing that. I think they're intentionally writing this book for the perspective of that fan base who has a passing knowledge, not an in-depth knowledge.
But they have an opportunity to make some really cool new things, put them into the lore. Like, how are they? I'm really intrigued with how are they getting rebuilt? How do they transform? Because it seems like that is inherently different than the way we're used to it. It's more like magic. There's like more magic involved, space magic from Destiny, in a way. So I hope that there's a payoff and it's not all just like to write because it doesn't need to make sense. Because it does need to make sense, and that's part of what makes Transformers Transformers.
I mean, Paul,
you're right.
Say that, but at the same time, the G1 cartoon had so much space magic in it. I mean,
anytime something doesn't make sense, just say a wizard did it.
Yeah. The Matrix just made Rodimus bigger and stronger, and the Unicron just blew up. The aerial boss just went back in time and got to see Optimus become Orion Pax. It just
Megatron built the Constructicons, who built Megatron, who also built the Constructicons. That's how it works. Back and forth. All day.
We'll figure it out later. And like, Anna,
it was a different time.
That meteorite is an egg, and the thing that it bursts eats the egg and runs away. Okay, that's just how it works.
And I'm trying to stifle my laughter as you're talking about like rules for death in comic books, because that's just like there's like one person that stayed dead, and that's Uncle Ben.
Oh, he's back now.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure. There are. There's alternate universes where he is back. Whether, it's for a while, it was like the only person that stayed dead was, Uncle Ben and Bucky, and it's like, we're gonna bring Bucky back, and it's like, holy crap, that's an awesome story. They brought Bucky back, and it's great. We're gonna bring the second Robin back. What? Wait, what? He's Red Hood now.
Okay, there's a difference between rules for death and rules for resurrection, right? I know comic books are all about the spontaneous resurrections, but when a human loses their brain or important organs, they die, right? That's just kind of a rule. We don't have that yet for our Transformers. So any resurrection won't have meaning until we have that. And I think it's a different time than it used to be, right? Like we leave less things unexplained in fiction than we used to.
Well, they break their own rules in the first story if they don't explain this.
Yeah,
and especially at the end of 7.
Hey, Phil, in the chat that they're requesting that you unfreeze yourself so they can see you ranting.
All right. You need to see the Chicago coming out of you, you know?
Stop,
Oh,
Bears.
in your mouth. Phil, I feel like you roasted me a little bit. Because like
I roasted you?
Yeah, a little bit. The G1 cartoon.
Oh, yeah.
There's lots of space magic in it. That's also for children, at the time. And a lot of that stuff didn't matter. And we've had 40 years to fill in the gaps collectively. And we have done a very good job of that.
Right, yeah. Right. But here's the thing.
And like, the audience.
I feel like
children.
There's a theme that I'm hearing from you guys, that you guys keep coming back to this idea that this book should be written for you, the Transformer fan who is an adult who has been engrossed in this fandom for 40 years.
So who is
That's not what I'm calling for at all.
Well, I'm going to say it is because that helps my narrative. So just you know.
I'm calling for it to fit modern fiction. Modern fiction has more explanations than 80s fiction did.
Yes.
It doesn't need to be their sparks, right? It doesn't need to be that death involves their spark being destroyed. Death could simply be like 75% of the robot is destroyed. And that would be an explanation. It has nothing to do with the rest of Transformers. It would be an explanation. It could be their hands are destroyed, so they die because their life is in their hands. Whatever. I don't care. That's an explanation. I need it.
I mean, if we go by what happened in issue 1, is that the head gets crunched in by Starscream's hand.
Right. Well, it seems to be that if your lower face gets destroyed, you die. That seems to be the role from issue 1. Here.
Well, that's what was great about Roberts is he made up this like three organ system, right? And that meant like that was new. Sparks was new at one point. You know, all that stuff. We don't need that lore persisted. We just need a new. Does it work? Like how do they exist? Because it's nice to have that, and it seems like
we just want some internal consistency here.
Yeah, and I think the potential is there. I'm not giving them. I'm praying that they care about this a little bit and give us what we need.
And Anna, you're right. I apologize for being so flippant because Earthspark does give us new lore. Earthspark does give us new rules, and that is a show aimed for kids. And it doesn't. And it does some space magic stuff, but it does it with more explanation. It's like, oh, the Terrans need water because they were born on Earth. They need that instead of Energon. So yeah, you're right. I do apologize for being to both Paul and Anna being so flippant about this.
Not mad about it. This is TFYLP or goofballs.
No, I mean, but you made a good point, and I acknowledge that point more so than I should have earlier, more so than I did, and so
there's just every time we have a new universe, because Transformers keeps redoing itself, as we're seeing with Transformers 1. We get new little pieces of lore to assimilate into the main, like driving force of the story. You know, like the whole universe, and they have some real potential to make some cool stuff, like be part of how it all works. And I really hope that they stick the landing with some of that stuff because it could persist for the next 20 years. You know, like the way they reformat, or you know. The way the Matrix works this time, you know, like who knows? All that stuff could be cool.
Something real wacky happens with that Matrix in issue 6, right?
Yeah.
Something really bizarro. It's just what?
Let's just say, like, we're going full on spoilers at this point, so I think we've kind of tiptoed around some things, but.
Well, I was gonna say too is I feel like the only thing that's really been impactful and I'm assuming lasting has been some of the human deaths, right? Like, those have been, and including issue 6, and so I'm also wondering too, like if this is how things work, like with the Matrix or something like that, like is Starscream or whoever else gonna start hooking humans up to whatever and have them be their energy source? Like,
ooh, it's the Matrix.
Yeah, it's like the Matrix.
You know, the Matrix movie.
Except there's a sacrificial pit.
Yeah.
I will say, like, that that was one of the things that I don't know if I'd say turned me off with the end of the first arc, but it was just kind of weird, and I do want more explanation with that. But one of the things that, in terms of this book making a long-term imprint on the franchise, we have gotten that already in the first 6 issues, and that's Optimus with Megatron's arm.
Yeah,
like that is now that's now a thing. That's, I don't know if you want to call it a meme or whatever, but that's now a thing that is firmly in our minds as Transformers fans. Is okay. That's pretty badass.
And if someone had just made a custom of that like a few years ago, they would have been laughed off the face of the earth.
And I'm sure someone probably did.
And now
there's probably like multiple fans out there who made that. It's like, motherfucker stole my idea. God damn it. I got laughed at on the TF boards for this. And yeah.
And now new Transformers producing. Now the new Transformers producing company, YOLO Park, that made this abysmal Grimlock that I'm holding up, they are actually using it in their advertising of their fancy new $60 non-transforming Optimus and Megatron. They're showing the Optimus with the Megatron arm because they're the same model kit body, so they're interchangeable. So they're just like, yeah, buy them both and you can have yourself some Optotron. It can be good for you. And people are excited about that. They're like, oh, I can make that. I can make that without having to break a toy because I'm just switching an arm.
I definitely know
PPC
Paul
figures back in the
cannot
day.
wait to get his mini masterpiece Optotron.
So, like, did I miss it somewhere in the comics? Like, what happened to Megatron? Like, I don't know. Maybe I just skipped over that page. I was trying to figure this out.
You gotta read some G.I. Joe.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, no! You told me I didn't have to read that crap.
Well, if you don't care
Gotta
what
read
happened
your
to
snake
Megatron other than
terrorists.
the fact he isn't there.
The Cobra Commander book is basically using a storyline from Transformers animated. But it's Cobra Commander instead of Professor Sundak.
Ugh.
And
And it's more grim and gross and dark.
If you've never seen Transformers animated and you wrote that, you're like, I'm a genius.
That's true. That's true.
Yes, I mean, this is again a shared universe, and who else has read Duke and Cobra Commander and Void Rivals?
I flipped through Void Rivals.
I've read some of all of them.
Okay, so I've read, aside from the newest issue of Duke, I've read all of it. I like Cobra Commander. I like Duke. Duke is in what, issue 2 or 3 of the Transformers comic?
Yeah, something that I read tonight.
Yeah, he's in issue 2, and so like that plays a part in the Duke story, but it's kind of like a little bit more realistic take of just like if you saw that and you were a fighter pilot and you saw a jet turn into a robot and smash your wingman like in its bare hands, like what that would do to you in terms of PTSD. That's what the Duke story is about. And when your government you didn't see nothing, just move along here, buddy. Like when your government does that to you and you've been like the good soldier, that's what the Duke comic is about. And it's like, all right, I'm on board for that. And then you throw in some Destro and some Major Blood kill squads going after people.
So what I'm hearing is that all the other books are better.
So far, yeah. The G.I. Joe stuff is really good so far. Like it's grim and gruesome, and it's not what I want for G.I. Joe because I really love the original comedy cartoon for G.I. Joe. Like that's just the way I like it to be told. But it's good storytelling so far. It's good storytelling. It's not cheap and actiony. It's just it seems like it's gonna be a neat beginning. It feels like it's world building. It feels like it's cool, interesting world building. Whereas the Transformers comic isn't that. It's just action movie.
Do we think we can get Christian to read about the snake terrorists and army guys?
Oh no. He will burn his Transformers comics if we tell him that it's required that he reads the snake terrorist book.
Let's have an intervention when this G.I. Joe Transformers movie comes out and show up in this house and be like, we got something to do. Like on a Thursday night, let's all fly out there.
Come on, buddy, you're coming with us.
Peter and I will just
intervention.
Drag him.
We blindfold him with the Cobra Commander mask over his head. Like, he just think he's blindfolded. We showed pictures later. We're like, you were Cobra Commander cosplayed.
Oh no!
It was getting really dark and fun. Okay.
But I think
got a plan.
You make an interesting point about, and this ties into what I said earlier about Void Rivals. Void Rivals mainly focuses on two characters. Obviously, Duke focuses mainly on one character. Cobra Commander mainly focuses on one character. And the Transformers book is a lot of characters. So, yeah, we're not getting as much character moments in the Transformers book. And we are, if you want more of those character moments, those other books give you more of that because they are just more limited in their scope.
There's quite a few Transformers characters in Void Rivals.
Well, yes, but you have two main characters that the story is following. And again, my point earlier was that the more recent issues, you don't have the Transformers characters popping up, and you have it more focused on those two characters of Void Rivals that you've been following since the start.
And that's good. I like character-driven world-building stories. Just a personal preference, right?
Yeah, and they're definitely their Void Rivals is definitely giving you more of here's the planet, here's the political environment, here are the things that are going on and have gone on kind of behind the scenes, and they're giving you that in drips, and it's good. So I don't know. One of the things is Kirkman himself is writing Void Rivals, and one of the things I always come back to with Kirkman stuff is Invincible, where the story of Invincible seemed like a pretty plain vanilla superhero story until you got to issue 11. And if you're just watching the Invincible cartoon, you didn't quite get that in the comic like you do. I'm sorry, you didn't. The cartoon kind of gives you that a little bit more from the start, versus the comic was just like you get to issue 11, you're like, what the fuck just happened? So yeah, Kirkman is a very slow burn kind of guy at times.
Yeah, I'm hoping we get I'm expecting some huge bombs to drop at, unexpected times in the story.
If you want huge bombs to drop, you should watch the Fallout show.
Watching it. I am. It's excellent so far.
Yeah.
I just think Void Rivals be the most important story to the whole thing at a maybe post issue 11. I don't know. Issue 11 is 2 years in, right? I mean, that'll second year. Something like that is Void Rivals is going to be. Everyone's going to have to go back and get it or start reading the trades or something. It's going to be like, oops, on purpose, like almost making casual fans like transition them into hardcores, and they have to go back and get the old stuff and become comic collectors.
The cover to issue 9 of Void Rivals is very Transformers focused. Like, I don't think it has one of the Void Rivals characters on it. It's just one Transformer whom we haven't seen before in this universe is the cover.
And there's going to be more of that kind of stuff, it seems like.
Again, shared universe. And the thing is that as a fandom, this is something we should be kind of proud of the fandom. Like, our fandom is the linchpin of this. Our fandom is the linchpin of the Hasbro Skybound Energon universe. It's even in the name.
Springer is literally on every cover.
This sounds like corporate rah-rah all-hands shit, Phil. For Transformers. Like, you should be proud of what you are part of.
I mean, there's a little bit of like bandwagon sort of thing. It's like, hey, this thing that we've been rooting for and cheering for these 4 decades is having its day in the sun. And I think sometimes as fans, we don't, it's like the joke that like the people who hate Star Wars the most are Star Wars fans. Well, like,
I gotta tell you though, looking down the barrel of having to buy 5 covers of Void Rivals #9 because every cover is a Springer cover, I kind of really turned off.
Oh my God, the Bears got another wide receiver. Holy crap. Anyways, Nick, that's your thing. And you do your thing. You enjoy this as you want to enjoy it. And if you're not enjoying it, then maybe find a different way to enjoy it.
But I can't stop.
Can't stop, won't stop. Wasn't that what Puff Daddy said? And look where that got him.
Oh jeez.
So yeah. I don't know. As a whole, I'm enjoying it. As a whole, I really like the different varieties of Transformers that we're being given. And I'm excited.
No, I think this is really, we're a third of the way through the year already. This has been a really good start to the 40th anniversary year for Transformers. Like, it has been, we're getting our consistent toy line. We know more Earthspark is coming, so we're getting more of the kids show. We're getting a mainstream-oriented movie. We have a comic run that, while it may not be everyone's taste, at least it's fun to read. And we're still getting just, buckets and buckets of new toys, both in, both isn't even enough of a term because we're getting the main line still coming. They have gone out and gotten a lot more licensees. So you have companies like Yolo Park making licensed good Transformers products. Then you have, what was that last one?
McFarlane Toys Page Punchers have been seen in the wild.
Oh, yeah. They're page punching. I forgot about those little crap masters. And Super 7 is probably always there producing things. But anyway, what I was trying to say is, yes, we are getting so much good Transformers stuff, and the 40th anniversary is starting off really well for the first of the year. And I'm going to keep reading these comics. I'm not going to stop, right? Like, issue 7 had a twist I didn't really like, but I'm still going to follow it through and read as long as I have friends who are reading it to talk about it with. So, like, Phil, I'm going to keep reading them because it is fun to read comics with friends. I don't really enjoy reading comics by myself.
Yeah, I mean, I give most comics I give a pretty long leash to, especially when it's something that I enjoy the characters of and that sort of thing. I mean, if you look at Transformers right now, it's firing on almost every major pop culture medium right now in terms of all the pop culture medium, kind of cylinders. Like the thing that we're sort of missing that I just like the video game got postponed, and that seems like it's just some jacked up, whatever weird video game, not planning things right.
A video game got postponed? I am shocked.
Yeah, I know. Just like indefinitely.
I feel like every video game gets like postponed though, right?
Hey, we got a recent Transformers video game.
Wait, not too long ago. This game get what's the status on this video game?
Reactivate. Reactivate was supposed to have a big trailer, right? Yeah. Around the time the toys came out. They were like, we're gonna have a big trailer. And instead of a trailer, the announcement was, we're rebuilding the thing. We're rebuilding the game from the ground up in a new engine. Because they realized they were building it on an old engine. Yeah, that's a really bad sign, Nick's eye. It's a really bad sign.
Yeah,
they have really good product managers.
While he's hearing that news.
What, Phil?
I said I love looking at Nick's eyes while he's hearing that news.
Oh.
The one medium that I'd say we're not getting right now that I'd like to get more of is some novelization. Or just novels.
I don't like novels. Let's pretend you didn't say that. Can we delete that from the...
You do or do not like that?
No, delete.
Why? I mean, if you want more story, novels are that. It's more story.
I read a bazillion pages of research written by very exciting scientists every day for my job. I don't want to read novels. I want comic books. I want cartoons.
I feel like Transformers does not work in the written form. It requires visuals.
Yeah. I agree with you, Paul.
Very important to it. I mean, I read the Robotech novels back in the day. God, I'd watch the cartoon. I was just reading what I saw in the cartoon. But like, they can't explain how the things transform. It went to go walk mode. Okay, that cool. Like, what did that look like? How did that happen? You know?
Yeah, no, that's fair.
You would have to have illustrations. It would have to be like a young adult
comic
style.
Like
a
visual drawn book with words on it.
I guess when I just try to think of like what are all of the kind of branches of media these days, TV, movies, comic books, video games, and then the
video games is a good thing to follow up on though, because there was a Cyberverse video game, right? There was Battlegrounds, and none of us played it. And there has already been one Earthspark video game where you play as Bumblebee, and it's an action game, and it actually got medium reviews. Yeah. It's already an Earthspark video game. You play as Bumbleman, you punch things, you drive. People have compared it to the old Armada game from PS2. None of us played it, right?
Didn't even know it existed. First I'm hearing of it.
They're not like big AAA
games
or anything, right?
Telling you about it.
Didn't we? Everyone find out that there's one designs.
What?
Uh-oh.
You're a little achy breaky tonight.
Can you hear me? Yeah, there you go.
Ladies and gentlemen, for those of you who are just listening, Paul's died.
That's so sad.
As he tries to make his point. I was gonna say, there is a current video game for it's a mobile game that has quite a few Transformers fans playing it, that has been out for a number of years now. So Earth
it's like
Wars.
a 5-year-old game, isn't it? I don't know if you call it current.
Hey,
but it's still currently
they
going.
update it all the time.
Yeah, it's been going since 2016. It's like 8 years old.
Jeez, yeah. Whenever I see you guys posting about it, I'm always like, wow, those graphics look like they're from quite a while ago.
They actually
it with the 2016.
They actually just revamped all the graphics.
Oh, well, that's good. You got to do that sometimes. We're doing that for Final Fantasy 14 soon, and it's really made the game look a lot nicer. So it's good they're doing that.
Yeah, the only reason I remember like when that game came out is that I remember being at a TF Con the night the Cubs won the pennant to be able to make it into the World Series. And one of the guys that we were hanging out at dinner with that night was saying just like how much he spent on the game. And it was like, he's telling us at the dinner table, like the insane amounts of money he spent on the game while the Cubs game is on the TV at the same time. It's like, okay, I know what year the Cubs game took place in. Therefore I have a frame of reference for this.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, there have been a few mobile games too, but yeah, those, I just wanted to kind of communicate that there were a couple recent Transformers games as well.
But I think like there's a difference between a mobile game and something like, not even maybe Transformers Devastation, but like War for Cybertron and Fall of Cybertron, where those were the types of games that expanded on the lore and expanded on the fiction. Whereas some of these other games that are just like, okay, we're just gonna drop the fan base.
No, you're right about that. Earthspark Expedition is what it's called, and it's already marked down to $20. It came out in October of last year. I have a feeling if I bought it, I would enjoy it a lot, because I do actually like my generic action games.
What systems is that on? Is that on PS5?
It's for Switch and I think PS4 technically.
But can I get it in the store? But anyway, so
yes, you can. You can get it on the store.
All right, well maybe I'll get it if it's $20 or whatever. So, but I don't know. Like the comics, Anna, you have to let me know how they are. I mean, it sounds like I need to read Cobra Commander, I guess.
And Duke apparently sounds really good.
Or Duke too. So how long are those runs if I like get those comics? Are those like $2 a piece now or something?
No.
The digital
They're
ones.
five. They're 5 issue series. Duke issue 5 just came out this week. Cobra Commander is about a month behind, so I think they just finished up issue number 4.
Okay. But like, as long as I'm not getting the 50 variants or whatever, I should be okay.
Yeah, it should be fine.
Correct. Yes, if you wanted to buy the first 4 issues of Duke digitally, you'd be paying $2 an issue. But yeah, they go cheap pretty quick digitally, Nick. Sorry.
Yeah.
I should hide that.
What, Nick? What's wrong?
You just broke Nick. First Paul dies, and now Nick breaks.
Am I
This
not
has been a
allowed
really
to
tragic
buy-
episode.
Am I not allowed to buy comics digitally, Nick?
I didn't know that they did that.
Yeah, they go to half price after a couple months.
It's not even a couple months. It's like literally the next month. Like
I think it's a month. Yeah.
Out. Yeah.
Why am I in this
Duke
business?
up through Forest. Because you have a love for you have a passion for the
But
medium.
it doesn't love me.
Oh.
Like, oh, you're trying to sell this? This is still sellable product for you? Guess what? Fuck you, it's not.
It's you have the company that's producing the medium trying to make as much money as possible, while the main retailer of that medium they could, give 2 craps about.
Yeah.
I mean, the one doing it digitally is Amazon, right? And Amazon is pretty much universally seen as evil, so.
Yeah.
Well,
No, it's
also,
Amazon. Well, that makes more sense now.
To them, it's they don't care how much they're selling it for because it costs them nothing.
Doesn't matter anyway.
Right.
It was a piece of digital code that they sold. Yeah. You could sell it for a cent and they'd be making money.
I mean, I suppose their bandwidth probably costs something on some level.
If I never had to move again, I would buy physical comics. Comics weigh a lot, as I'm sure Nick very much knows. Having a comic store, the comics are heavy when you have a lot of them. And I still have all my, what did you call it? That Dreamwave. I still have all my Dreamwave comics and all of my Marvel G1 comics. And those weigh a lot. More than a couple pounds. And all of both IDW runs. Yeah, I have all those in physical form too. So I haven't been buying the physical comics because they weigh a lot.
I didn't do it in IDW. I didn't buy hardly any physical ones, but I did go pretty hard in the Dreamwave stuff.
Yeah, same here.
Like I had a lot of the incentives, and they weren't super hard to get back then. I don't know. Not like they are
weren't doing digital back then,
they weren't
right?
100 to 1 or 1 to 100, but I ended up selling all those at one point too, Anna, because I was just holding on to these for 10 years, and space was an issue then, and then
I've had mine for 20.
you sell those on eBay, and oh my god. They're really hard to. They're so heavy to sell them. You lose all the money on shipping. So that was long time ago. So but now I'm buying these ones again because they kind of got me hooked with the cover, and the artwork I think is cool. So I don't get.
And that's
I'm
how
not getting them
Dreamwave
all.
got us, right?
What?
It was the artwork.
Yeah,
that's how Dreamwave got us. Was the artwork. We were like, "Wow, this is the coolest Transformers has ever looked." So.
In retrospect, it wasn't, but it looked pretty good at the time.
No, it was one of the coolest ways. It was one of the coolest ways Transformers had looked to an American audience.
Yeah, my teenager brain was eating it up. My teenager brain loved the dull surprise. My teens were basically one giant dull surprise, so perfect.
We did get Don Figueroa out of that era. That was and Milne.
Yeah.
Right. So hey.
And we drove Pat Lee to bankruptcy.
Hardly.
Yeah.
And Robbie Musso.
See, there's a big plus for this comic run. Pat Lee is not a part of it. There's the plus. We're all winners.
I do follow him on Facebook and have for years, and I'll let you know he recently drew an Optimus Prime and showed it to people. And he's like, I remember when I blah 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 at Optimus Prime. I'm like, oh my god, if the whole world saw this.
I have a Pat Lee Optimus Prime sketch. I kind of enjoy it.
Did he actually draw it?
Yeah, I watched him do it.
That'd be the only way you would know.
This was in between when he did the Wizard article splash page and when he actually started drawing on the Transformers book.
Mm-hmm.
So Optimus Prime doesn't quite look right. Like he's missing the side kind of things on his mouth. It almost looks like an Orion Pax kind of thing.
Jesus.
It's like baseball cap Optimus Prime.
I mean, the dude can draw, you know.
Of course.
Yeah.
He is a good artist. It's just, you know, all sorts of stuff we should probably stay clear of.
His art was very in vogue at the time.
It was, yes. That is a good way to put it. That was when we were seeing that whole like digital art thing coming about, and people were like, wow, that digital art looks so well finished. And now we want to go back to hand drawn because we can never be happy with what we have.
Well, that and like as an American audience, we were just like, oh, anime is cool. So anything that looks like anime is like super cool. And it's just like, hey, you know, it looks like anime and manga. So like, why don't we just read that actual stuff versus, you know, yeah.
The Pat Lee
Can
stuff.
we talk about some
so
more of the story you liked or something? I feel like we've gone astray.
Story that we liked, sure.
We've
gone really.
Was there anything that we liked? Were there any
tonight
moments that stood out?
I liked Starscream's characterization.
Yeah, mostly I like Starscream.
I mean, I think that is actually interesting, you know, with Starscream and, you know, I don't know, kind of like their role in the world, I guess, like kind of where they're just like, oh, we're so much more powerful than these humans, kind of deal. Like these are ants to us, kind of thing. So, you know, I'm trying to think what else. I mean, I feel like that the the Autobots are a lot more combative than, like, I don't know. I feel like that they kind of are more willing to pick a fight than like what I've seen in other characterizations. I don't know if you agree.
I feel like that's that latent movie influence kind of creeping in.
Yeah.
It's like giving your face Prime, but toned down enough where we'll like, hey, yeah, that's cool. Yeah, he ripped his arm off. That's cool.
I like Cliffjumper.
Yeah.
He's my Bumblebee substitute in this comic because he's pretty much playing that like friendly to the teenage humans character.
Friendly red robot.
Yes, instead of kid-friendly yellow robot.
He's Clifford Jumper.
So I'm liking Cliffjumper. I actually kind of like the little bit of backstory we've gotten of how bad things were for these people that are now called Autobots. Because, like, you know, both Cliffjumper and RC are shown to be from clans that have been basically wiped out by the Decepticons. And it's like, I mean, it's not an original concept by any means, but it's a little bit different than what we usually hear for Transformers. Like, it's like instead of Autobots just being, you know, the other side, it's kind of like the refugees forming together to form a resistance to this more dominant group. It's kind of cool.
Well, I also kind of feel like this is a return to good guys versus bad guys too, right?
Absolutely.
Like the last IDW, it was almost like you almost sympathize with the Decepticons and their cause. like the way that they kind of wrote that, where you're just like, I'm not really sure that the Autobots are actually the good guys in this. Whereas like this is like the Decepticons are definitely the bad guys. Like there is no mistaking that.
Oh, they're genocidal.
Right.
Yeah, they're super evil.
And I think, Paul, to your point,
Can I comment about Starscream?
What's that?
Am I choppy?
Yeah,
You are
very
choppy, yeah.
All night.
Oh,
It's gotten worse in the last.
maybe I should just bail. Yeah.
But you want to
Yeah.
talk about Starscream.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Sorry,
Starscream's your beloved. Talk about him before you leave.
well, not if you can't tell what I'm saying. Sorry.
I can tell. Talk.
Okay, I'll try. So you mentioned that Starscream's characterization is cool, and he's really over the past, I don't know, decade, like there's been a lot of fangirls for Starscream. Like he's gotten kind of this sort of Loki, sassy, I don't know, like following, which is cool. But I see a lot of people like jumping off. They're like, he's so mean. He's too mean. And I'm like, no, this is Starscream, man. This is how he always was. He always had the capability of being this just ruthless and like stupidly evil. And I haven't really seen him like this, I think, ever. He's like unleashed. Starscream Unchained. And I really, really like it. Like I love, like when one of my favorite scenes is when he goes to the power plant at the end of the first issue. And it's not because he kills the guy. It's because I can hear him, like the dialogue is really funny. He's like talking to himself. He's like, go get the energy, go get this. Yeah, like I have to do everything. Like he's just a little petulant fucker. And it's awesome to see it like as clear as day. And some people are not on board with that. But I mean, he was always this guy, so sorry. So that he's definitely a high point of the story to me so far. It's been cool.
I think, Paul, to your point about the Autobots being, a little bit tougher, is like they're really treating them as soldiers in a war, maybe more so than other comics have done in the past.
They are, yeah.
I mean,
even if they're reluctant rebellion soldiers.
You could almost compare this to like Wrecker stories, where it's like, hey, we've got to do horrible things just to survive.
Well, I think the other thing too is I do actually kind of appreciate the portrayal of Optimus Prime. Like I feel like that's one thing where I don't know. Like I feel like IDW somewhat missed the mark on Optimus Prime a little bit. I mean, I think it was interesting, but at the same time, it wasn't like the leader of the Autobots kind of thing. He was almost kind of more like the reluctant leader, kind of deal in IDW. Whereas like this one, he is definitely the leader. Like he's front and center in the book compared to some of the stories in IDW, especially at the beginning.
Yeah, IDW made him too introspective at times.
Yes.
And too fallible. Like this one is the right amount fallible. Like he's making mistakes and regretting it, but he's not like annexing Earth because he doesn't know what to do and, ruining the politics of an entire planet. He's not committing war crimes in the background because he thinks it's a good idea to rely on his war criminal buddies, right? Like he's just a normal fallible soldier. And that's a better... IDW Optimus wore me out. Like it was just too many times he did the same thing where it's like, and then Optimus did something terrible in the background. You're still supposed to love him though. He's your dad. Like, no, this guy sucks.
Yeah, IDW made Optimus a little too emo, and Skybound here is making him more Captain America-esque.
For sure.
Superman, Captain America. Yeah, probably more Superman parallels there. They're both aliens. But yeah, he has a genuine appreciation for life and wanting to preserve life. The scene with the deer, I even kind of made fun of a little bit when that scene first happened, I think in issue number 2, but it does go to show like he does care about the preservation of life. And like in the scene, I think in issue 5, where the Decepticons are attacking the hospital, it's like he makes a really big decision there, because it's like, hey, listen, no, I'm not going to let these other living beings and other creatures die because of I have the ability to save them.
Yeah, I agree.
There's space magic.
No, this is a better Optimus. I will say that for sure. And a better Wheeljack.
Yeah, a better sound.
Wheeljack doesn't have legs, but it's hilarious.
So it's good. It's good to see that we get our detailed review of the comic at the end of hour 2 of the show. So it's like if there's anyone still watching or listening to this, right? It's like you had to.
If you survived,
sit there
really talk about the comic
listen
now.
Through an hour and a half of off-topic stuff so that we can get to the comic 2 hours in.
That's right.
Hey Nick,
That's how we do it here.
Interesting question in the chat that you'd probably be best to answer. Are free comic book day books available digitally?
Oh, I don't know, because I don't mess with the digital end of things.
Okay.
And I sure hope not, because the whole point is to bring your ass into a comic book shop.
Right.
Well, the free comic book day Energon Universe thing is also going to be available for sale. I don't think the free version is online, but you will be able to buy it.
That makes sense.
Why is the free comic book day comic for sale? Is it the alternate cover? How many variant covers are they doing for free comic book day, Nick?
A few.
Are they?
Rip.
That's exhausting. That actually kind of sucks though, because I know there are people who do drive around to get as many free comic book day comics as possible in kind of like a bad way. I'm not a huge fan of that behavior, and giving alternate covers for one comic encourages that.
No.
So that kind of sucks.
Yeah. Look, the only thing that free comic book day has ever proven is that if you offer somebody something for free, they'll take it.
Yeah, that's true. I remember as a kid,
the idea is supposed to buy a comic and get a free comic, right? Isn't that?
I mean, yeah, but we can't. Part of the terms of free comic book day is that we can't make it free with purchase. It has to be just free. You walk in, you get a thing.
Right.
And the comic book publishers give you those books for free, right, Nick?
That's hilarious. No, let's find out. I could tell you right now what that costs. Generally, it's like $0.25 a book, 50 cents a book, depends on the publisher, I think. Some of the bigger publishers, I think it used to be like 10, 12 cents, depending on the thing. But no, stores pay for those.
Yeah, I know.
I actually didn't know that.
You set me up.
Yeah.
You were turning the crank.
Oh yeah, I knew what I was doing there.
I didn't know that though, so I bet a bunch of our other listeners didn't either.
Friends in the industry that I know how some of this works. It's different than like back when Marvel would do Fantastic Four #0 for 25 cents. Which was like 20 plus years ago.
Oh my god.
So I remember having a stack of those in my dorm room that I would just give out for free.
You're going to tell me when I return something that the retailer eats the cost on that too.
Let's see, the Dynamite books are $0.25. The Marvel books are...
Retailers love paying you to borrow their product.
Right? I figured.
30 cents.
For whom?
So, yeah, they're between a quarter and 50 cents piece. The free comic day books.
Free. How many free comics do you usually give out to people?
The freight.
Like, huh?
Plus the freight. Because we're paying the freight on them too.
So like if I walked into your shop, Nick, how many free comics would I be able to get?
The way that we do it, everybody gets one, and it's chosen at random based on the theme. We split them out into action adventure or all ages, and you get the first book off the top of the pile. It cuts down on what Anna recognized earlier, the guys who go from store to store getting as many as they can get their hands on. It then makes sure everybody gets something. And maybe something that you wouldn't have been exposed to otherwise. Maybe you'll take it home, read it, enjoy it, or you'll trade them around with your friends, is sort of the idea.
So are there rules to how much you can limit someone taking? Like what you're doing?
What's up?
Like are there limits to, can you impose a limit? Like you can't, guy going around to all the stores, you can't have 3 of this book.
Well, you probably can't single anybody out like that, but that there.
I mean, you have a
there are
rule
no-
in place for that. Like it's okay.
Huh?
So Paul, I think to answer your question, I think I'm hearing you maybe better than Nick.
Yeah.
And I don't want to speak for Nick, but there's no police force that's going to like stop someone from going from one store to a next to buying, because almost all these stores are either one-off, ownership or very small chains, and they don't have the capacity to stop people from going from store to store and getting multiple books. At an individual store, yeah, you can say, hey, you only get 1 book.
Yeah.
Or some stores will be like, hey, you can get 3 books, and they usually will have like 1 or 2 people standing there to try and enforce that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, some folks just lay them all out and they let you take whatever you want, and when they're gone, they're gone. And oh well, if you don't get your book, tough,
Right.
Yeah, the store I shop at now, you basically like they have it set up where it's out on, it's their shop is right on the main stretch of town, which is really cool. It's a nice main walkable shop, and so they have out on the sidewalk the display with all the books. And so when the book is gone, they'll take it off that display. But what you do is you tell them what book you want. I think you can choose up to like 2 or 3, and then you go inside the shop and you have like a little Post-it note, and you give the Post-it note to the guy working the counter, and he gives you the actual physical book itself at that point in time.
So the take-home message here is that there will be an Energon Universe free comic book day comic. That is a way to get a little bit of exposure. And then you might want to check out actually reading it.
I'd recommend it.
We all seem to be at different levels of enjoying it, but none of us hate it. So
no.
Yep.
Look,
don't hate it.
Here's my takeaway on the whole thing. It's like the IDW books for a long time were like the book I would race home to read every month when they'd come out. This book is not that. This book is a book I read clearly, as I was doing earlier in the program, when I get around to it.
Yeah, same here.
I want to love this, and I don't.
I'm enjoying it, but it's just something I kind of read. If I'm ever at a place where I can't do anything else, I'll be like, oh, I have that on my tablet. I'll read it while I'm indisposed.
I'm enjoying it, and I'm also enjoying it because I'm like letting my son read these books, and it's fun for me to read it first and then let him read it and like see like his face when he turns the page and gets to some like crazy bananas moment. And so there's plenty of like, cliffhangers and holy crap, big splash page kind of moments that are fun. Again, it's a big action focused book, and it's got great pages that look amazing like that. And I'm extraordinarily jealous of the people that I see highlighted by Daniel Warren Johnson's art dealer of like, oh, so and so just bought this page. He's like, God damn it, jerk! I'd love to have that.
I have one art complaint from the first arc. The panel with the Constructicon that just says heavy metal over the Constructicon. It's like, okay, I get what you're doing, and some of the sound effects have been funny, but it obscures your art. You have totally painted over your art with that. Don't do that. Put it in the background.
There might have been an editorial choice on the coloring.
But the Psalm sound effect.
That was funny. Cringy. Great. I liked it.
I don't know.
I even heard it in tune. You know the song.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I will say though, just because we're all here together and we're all here saying like some degree of we're okay with it, we like it, it's all right. I will say that at least 2 of our cast members really don't like it. So I know Catherine has pretty much sworn against it because she liked the character driven, more emotional dialogue, character stuff we were getting, and is very sad that we've lost it in favor of this more generic action movie setting. And Christian is having a hard time with the art because he does not like the Daniel Warren Johnson art. So I know that a couple of us are not liking it as much. I don't think he particularly loves the story either because it is a little bit of a just like, cool action nonsense. But so it's not everyone's cup of tea, right? So like I wouldn't tell anyone go out and buy every issue and you're just going to be so happy. Try an issue and then decide if you like it.
This is this is Transformers meets John Wick to an extent. And there's a place for that. There's a definite audience for that, and not every audience is going to like that sort of style of book.
The action's pretty graphic. I will say that.
Yeah, Catherine said it's way too violent, and and I just sort of look at it like, well, yeah, they're supposed to be at war, like the old G.I. Joe and Transformers cartoons and Star Wars, where it's like everyone just shoots at each other and no one actually gets hit. We live in a violent world that war is very, very violent, and to portray it differently, some people would say is inappropriate. To portray war is less violent than sometimes we see in media. And I'm not saying that's what Catherine's doing. And I understand I hope I understand why she doesn't like that. But yeah, sorry, I'm rambling.
Anna, didn't you say that IDW is too violent?
At times I've said that, yes.
Did you say that about the Wreckers book?
Yes, it's the Wreckers stuff that I don't really care for. But it's different, right? Like this in G2, the story is the violence, right? Like it's just part of it. I think the IDW, it kind of comes out more like in the middle of a long story with like valuable, well-received characters, and then hyper violence happens and people die really, really quickly, and it feels different than it does in this. This is more like, there's a lot of violence, but it's throwaway characters being thrown away.
Yeah, but I mean, in the IDW, in that second iteration, the most popular one in Robert's books, it was like Star Trek. It was a science fiction, space exploring book that also dealt heavily with characters. And they'd meet with action and consequences. And people would die and violence would happen. But that was not the main thrust of the books. And Robots in the Skies was a political intrigue book. And the same kind of thing with Optimus. So, you would get to flashpoints where violence would happen, but it wasn't every issue. And this is more of a war story.
Yeah. Yeah, I
don't know. I mean, Sergeant Rock of Transformers.
Do you think, like I don't really know that much about Image Comics, but could you see down the road of them introducing a book that would be more akin to IDW, or do you think that it's all going to play within this universe and all of it's going to be a similar like dynamic?
Anything's possible. It's too early to tell. We're only 7 issues in.
Right.
And we're gonna have 4 different books, so we might get a book that has a little bit more of that flavor to it.
Yeah.
And we've only had one writer so far.
Right.
Right.
Well, on Transformers, we've only had 1 writer. We've got 3 writers in the Energon universe.
Yeah.
I'm blanking on the gentleman's name, but the same guy is writing both G.I. Joe books right now, and then Kirkman is writing Void Rivals.
So, all right. Well, I guess anything else we want to say before we wrap up?
Yeah, not of Energon universe.
I was going to mention book club this week at 9:30 Eastern, 8:30 Central on the TF Talk Discord is going to be talking about the IDW reboot and what is it? Escape 2 and 3. I don't what is that? Mm-hmm. Okay, sure.
Escape is one of the comics. It was just called Escape for a while.
Fair enough. Yeah, I didn't even know. So there you go.
It's about escaping.
Okay, cool.
We're already getting towards the end. It's
Have
winding
you read
down.
those books, Nick?
Well,
then
the
join them for
reboot
book club.
I don't have time
and
to
you
read.
can read it.
I want to. I don't have time. I wanted to join them for book club when they were doing the good stuff, and I fucking missed it.
You missed us doing the real good stuff when we watched Super God Master Force together. Or hell, we listened to the Kiss Players audio recording this radio show. Yeah, there was we did it on book club because there was a translation posted by a translation group. It was a lot of fun. It was something that no one had ever experienced. And it's not half as bad as people think it is. Oh.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you guys for joining us tonight. Thanks to everyone in the chat, and we'll see everyone next week.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.